What's up, everybody? My name is Flex the artist, or Isaiah the artist, or just Flex. It really doesn't fucking matter what you call me. Basically, all I want you to do is listen to what the fuck I'm saying, I guess. So, in this video, I want to break down pretty much what I do. I want to talk to you guys about how I develop my style, and I also want to talk to you guys about basically what I want to do so far as being an artist and being a creative, and how I'm approaching being an artist, especially in the time period that we're in. If that makes sense, probably doesn't, but figure that shit out. So basically, I have my phone laid out for you guys because I feel like the best way to show you guys style development is to actually show you the started from the bottom, now we here type shit. You know what I'm saying? Basically, I'm going to show you guys some images of things that I did. I think the farthest that my Instagram goes is fucking to my senior year, sophomore year in high school. Not really fucking sure. But I'm going to show you guys the work that I did then compared to the work I did now, and how I constantly started taking bits and pieces of ideas and styles that I liked and combining them together in order to develop, a style that not only represents me, but represents the type of work that I want to create, the type of people that I'm influenced by, and just like, where I want to go with this. First and foremost, I want to tell everybody there's no such thing as bad art. And that's what you really need to know in order to develop your own style. There is no such thing as bad art. There is only passionate art. There is only art that that speaks. You want your art to speak for you, and that is the most important thing about art. Some people are artists who are narratives. Some people are artists who are strictly like, portrait artists and figurative artists, and there's so many different types of things, and it's so crazy how unique they can all be when it comes to a person, taking it into their own hands and developing their own unique way of interpretation. So when I first started, this Instagram page, see, I've had plenty of Instagram pages. I probably had about like 6 fucking Instagram pages that I've put together throughout my whole time on social media. When I first was able to get my own fucking Facebook when I was like fucking 14 or some shit. But this is like, this work I have on here is not even 1% of the work that I've done throughout my whole life. Not even my whole life, but even throughout fucking high school. So it's one of the things that I try to push, especially being an artist, is how important the figure and just figure drawing and life drawing is, and how useful it can be when it comes to learning how to draw. Like, let me show you. Like, honestly, if I didn't sit down and study anatomy and study the human form, it would be so hard for me to draw, period. Like, being able to draw, basically the human body is the ideal thing to draw when trying to develop your skill, because it offers so much potential when it comes to figuring out how to draw proportions, or figuring out how to draw dimension and like structure. That's everything that drawing requires. You can get from studying the human body. Like, if I didn't know how to draw, like I just showed you guys this, but if I didn't know how to draw this, like this basically opened the gateway for me to be able to draw stuff like this. You see how it has the the 3D elements to it. It has dimension to it. That's everything that the human body has. And I feel like in order to truly develop yourself as an artist, to truly understand these things, you have to sit back and admire form and admire, death and space. And that's why, I get frustrated when a lot of artists don't like to sit down and do still lifes and don't like to sit down and, read books on how to draw, human bodies, and they think that it's not important, and all they want to do is draw abstract and fucking just put paint on paper. And it's like, I mean, that's cool, that's expressive, and I don't hate it, but, the masters, like even Picasso, you recognize Picasso for his cubic style, but the only way he was able to do that was because he knew how to paint like figuratively before he was able to paint in that, representative way that he chose for himself. And it's like if you don't know how to draw a face from scratch, how can you, draw a face with your own style, or, switch it up? Like, you have to know how to draw something in its true form before you go off and try to do something differently. And I feel like that's why I appreciate the school that I go to. I go to the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, and basically it's a traditional school. We do a lot of drawing of the figure, we do a lot of live painting and stuff like that, and that has really opened my mind to, developing, my understanding of human anatomy, and just drawing the human form and drawing people from life, and how I can take that and extend it into other fields and other ways of drawing. But basically, like I said, I'm going to show you guys how I developed my style and how I broke down in different pieces. So I would say my earliest original style was something like this. Basically, like I said, I was fascinated by human anatomy. I still am fascinated by the human form and what it does. And, I used that, and I knew I wanted to use that originally, and I thought that I wanted to have that in my painting and, make that represent me. So this is what I put together. And my fault, I didn't fucking mean to do that. One of my biggest influences back then, not really now as much, was Basquiat, and the way that he incorporated, words and text into his drawings. And that's one of the things that I tried to duplicate at first was, how can I've always liked text, and I always like just straight one-word answers, and, like direction, and, like symbols. So one of the symbols I was really fascinated with was the eye. I really love pyramids and just really sharp cutting corners and arrows. In this drawing, it's basically just pointing out the obvious and, showing you guys the different parts of the body. You got the head, and then you have it pointing there. You got the shoulder pointing to the word shoulder. Just breaking down that. Alright. And then you can see how things started to change a little bit. I started to appreciate color a lot more. So this is a drawing that I did for my man Prince Yasin. Shout out to Prince Yasin. You already know what fucking time it is. I started to experiment a lot more with painting this more abstract style. This was a painting that I actually put into my portfolio for school. I really do love this painting, and as you can see, I still am incorporating text, and a lot of the direction and pyramids and, the stuff that I was originally doing from the rip, Another thing that I want to express is how important it is to appreciate other styles of art and how far that can really take you. As you can see here, like, I start drawing tattoo designs because I start getting really interested in designs, and I start drawing flash and stuff like that. And by me drawing flash really helped me develop the idea of actual designing and formatting and putting together things that people will be interested in creating little symbols and little designs, and not having to focus on huge giant images. I feel like one of the biggest things for artists is, what do I want to draw? Or oh, let me fill this page. That's what I was taught when I was being taught how to draw. They told me, fill the page as much as possible. Don't leave any blank spots. But art has taken such a different turn, where it's like you can put a dot on the page now and it still somehow be beautiful. And all I'm saying is, when creating something, when a piece of paper is in front of you, don't think you just have to stick to one simple thing or one simple drawing, or stick to what you're doing. Use that paper to its full ability, or don't use it to the full ability, and let it work for you. So this little phase here of creating Flash and creating different, basically just appreciating tattoo design and Flash design, helped me develop a more designing way of doing things. And you can see that when I start creating much larger pieces of art, like larger pieces of paintings. And I would say this period right here, this painting right here, was the painting that really, just because of how positive the reaction was when I put it into a show, it was really crazy. And I busted this painting out in a fucking day, and I just love it to this day, because it's a representation of me. It's a representation of what I was doing at the time, which was basically just smoking and drinking and bullshit in 24/7. This whole phase here is just me actually finding this style that I fuck with and just developing it. You can see this is the pretty much the original Flex character, that whole blocky element. Sorry for that, but like I was saying, this motherfucker right here basically opened the door for other interpretations and other styles. So what I was doing when I started going through this phase of paintings, which was basically this painting all the way up to this painting. Hold on, going too fast. Well, basically this painting opened the door for the style that I'm doing now, because I realized how unique it was. And when I showed it to other people, see, this is what's so important about being an artist. Don't be afraid to show people your work. You know what I'm saying? We need to stop this whole antisocial artist thing. We, as artists, the only people who are really going to support us are other artists and people who support art. And usually people who support art are other artists, And that's why I find it weird when artists don't speak to each other or don't collaborate with each other. There's not as much collaboration going on, because at the end of the day, being an artist, you automatically are a part of a community, first of all. And as a community is supposed to develop each other and build each other, in my opinion. So one of the things that I can say, if you do want to venture into art and be successful at it, is just be open. Be open with yourself and with others, and just don't be afraid to sit down on the train and draw in front of a bunch of people. Don't be afraid of somebody looking over your shoulder and being oh, that's a shitty drawing. Because it really doesn't matter. Because it's really yours. And if they don't have anything good to say, then they shouldn't fucking say anything at all. That's my opinion, and it's not like I really give a fuck. I'm gonna draw how I want to draw anyway. But let me get back to I keep losing fucking track. I only got fucking 4 minutes of video left and shit. So basically, like I said, this was the painting finished and framed, And with this painting, I submitted this into a show when I think it was my junior year of high school, and I put it into the show, and people fucking Loved it. I got a lot of positive feedback for this painting, and you know, it just showed me how far I can go with this style, and you know, like how unique it was. Like when people, if you have a style and people are telling you it is unique, then you ride that fucking wave like to the fullest. You know what I'm saying? Like if people are telling you that, you know, that you have talent, like don't just ignore that. Like a lot of people, when you tell them they have talent, they just be like, oh, thank you, and they still think that they're not special. Like, you know, us as individuals being who we are special from the day we are born to the day we die, just because of how unique we all are. You know, like everybody these days wants to be like a part of a group, or like, you know, a part of something. And when it comes to individuality, I don't even know if I fucking said that word right, but when it comes to being yourself, like everybody fears being themselves because they feel like it's so taboo to, and they think it's selfish to, you know, identify yourself as like this single person, you know. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with being, you know, completely different than everybody else, and, you know, having your own way of doing things. But I'm losing track of what I'm saying. This painting, I got a lot of positive feedback from this painting. People loved it, and with all that positive feedback, you know, I kind of stamped this as the way that I was going to create my work, you know. And I started to push that even more, and I started to do murals. This was a mural that I did for my high school as my senior project. This painting actually only took about a week, you know, and it was a lot of preparation, and I had a lot of people help me, and I really appreciate Darien High School for letting me do this beautiful mural that's still up to this day. All these colors represent something. Everything in this painting has a representation to it, and the painting still isn't even finished because I want to put some text up top, and this character right here is actually supposed to be me, and it's not finished. Yeah, and another thing, experimentation. You know, when we have here, like, this is so different from the rest of the shit that's on my page. Like, the more abstract and just like, you know, this is, during this period, this is just me like fully enjoying creating, you know, like just putting paint on paper and just like seeing what you get. Like that shows that you really enjoy what the fuck you're doing. If you can just jump into it without even thinking and just be like, listen, I just wanna see some bright ass colors, you know. Now we're gonna move on up to a more recent series. Here are some more paintings, and you can see from this original painting here, you see how I started like creating these flows within the face and flows within the hands. I got a lot of positive feedback, so what I did is I started to do more of that in my more recent paintings. Like as you see here, like, you know, having that figure hidden inside of those. And when I did this painting, having this girl made up of like, I called them like orbs of energy or whatever. I don't fucking know. I'm trying to fucking be different. Alright, so now I feel like we should start from the top. As you can see, a lot of development really came from experimentation and trying to understand every tool that I use, trying to understand all the techniques and all of the ways of creating an image. So one of the things that my school pushed going to the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts was, you know, our first year was our foundation year, and our foundation year basically was, you know, they threw us in a bunch of classes that were different just in case we found interest in something else. And that right there taught me such a valuable lesson that, you know, us as human beings, we change all the time. We change our minds, you know, our bodies change, everything about us changes. And the more that we appreciate this change, the more that we appreciate, damn, people just like on my dick today. Like, people calling me like all the fucking time. But yeah, experimentation and development and shit. Just keep on pushing, and one day you'll be able to fucking be president of the United States and shit. Nah, for real. Like, let me show you guys different ways that I do my style. In different styles. So, flex. This is a flex painting. you know. And from there I went off and did graffiti, some more flex paintings and shit like that. I feel like the last time I stopped off by saying how I found interest in creating these separations, and how I took that and kind of pushed it when it went to doing the other paintings like this. You see how I kind of break it apart and create these little bubbles or swirls within the characters. And this phase right here, basically I did an apprenticeship at a tattoo shop, and honestly, if it wasn't for that, I would not have the appreciation for other styles that I do now. Because when I was in there, I was exposed to so much different shit that it was impossible for me not to learn anything. I was drawing in a way that I normally didn't draw in, like this Japanese style. And this Japanese style has got me in love with lines and just creating using line, which is pretty much art is. When you pick up a pencil, the only way you get the values that you want is by creating the separation and connection of lines and using pencil thickness to create depth and certain stuff like that. And it's like I said, line, this is an etching that I did, and I basically all of it is just lines and creating these forms and these shades, and you see the different thicknesses that I used and how they work. Alright, so this is another style that I started to get into. I am a very cheap motherfucker. I'm cheap as shit. So I will not spend a lot of money on art supplies. And I know that sounds shitty, but like I said before, it kind of opens the door for experimentation. And when I create some people get too attached to their work just because the materials were too expensive, and being too you never want to get too attached to a painting or a work, because eventually it's gonna die, and just like we die, paintings die, paintings get old, and they decay, and time shatters. So I appreciate that, and that's why I never really when I create something, it's really just for the enjoyment of creating and being able to make. And as humans, we have this drive to make and to create, and we all have this creative energy inside of us that that when we activate is really such a beautiful thing. So this style here was completely new. It incorporates basically the same kind of ideas of what I was doing all the way down here, just with the colors and using geometry and shape in order to create a positive image, using shapes and such. And I knew that was something that I wanted to do, and I knew that was something that I was fascinated by, which was color and overlapping of different colors and how they played. And these drawings were done with marker, basic Crayola marker, and it's all just like, layering and just like, filling in spots, and just like, like, you see how I use the orange to sort of direct you throughout the page in a way. Like, you start from up here and then you start coming down a little bit, and like how the orange fills in these blank spots that you don't really fill in with the faces, and how, like, these lines kind of drag you across the page. Like, these are all things that, should come naturally when you're creating a picture. Is how can I, like, unify this image with different elements. And the same thing goes with these. Like, when I started this painting, this drawing, which is basically done with marker the same way, it was basically just like, I'm going to draw these 4 heads. I'm going to pick, these 3 or 4 colors, which is the pink, the purple, the red, and the yellow. And I'm going to stick to that, and I'm going to see where it goes. And, it's all just like enjoying the process of creating and enjoying the idea of mistakes. Like, a lot of these, like, when I first started, I might have started with this one, with this little Z blotch here. And then from there, I decided, okay, if I'm going to put one here, then let's put one there. And if I put one there, then, let's balance it out and put one up top, And that's all it is just, taking it and understanding, okay, if I put this here, then this has to go here. And, it doesn't have to, but, it'll work with the image. And this was a little phase that I went through, where doing these marker drawings, because they were very free and very spontaneous. And, I did these without thought. All the thought was in the moment, And even here, like, you can see where, I started with the eyes closed and then I opened them, like simple things like that. So more practicing, more developing. One of the craziest things that was for me was, branching off and actually drawing actual people. Like, I started, like, looking at people and drawing portraits, and, like, really loving that. And that opened the door for me to be able to draw people in the style that is mine. Like, when I did this one, like, if I hadn't sat down and drew this picture, tried to understand how to draw faces by doing it this way, then I wouldn't have been able to go in and, draw, like, with such a likeness, like these characters, which is Chance, J. Cole, and Kendrick. Like, this is a quick little flash drawing that I did, but you can see that it's my style. Like, you can see, like, my elements. And then from there, here's some more of these little drawings that I did, and an amazing thing happened. You can see, I was doing these characters, and it was working, and it is working. So I said, okay, let me do something that's still me, but still representative, but, doesn't go too far. And this is what I came up with. And this is Amanda Steinberg. Basically, I took her and I drew her, and then I made her my style, and then I added the elements that I enjoyed so much doing these marker drawings, and put them into the background. And, that showed, experimentation, and showed that, that I'm not afraid to combine different elements, combine different things to create this image. Like, you obviously get this real, like, illustrated character, and then you get these really free marker doodles, And then from there, then it branched off, and at this point, this was another very important, because everything from here, like this period here, all the way down, was strictly traditional, strictly, like, pen to paper, painting to canvas, that type shit. And then from here, once, because I go to school for illustration, and once they introduced me to, Photoshop and Illustrator, I had a basic understanding in Illustrator, but, I'm a very traditional artist. I still consider that. But, like I said, during these periods, it was all about experimentation, and I told myself, like, if I really want to develop and be different, then I have to open the door and start using other creative softwares other than traditional mediums. So with this, I had to sit down and say, okay, well, how can I take my drawings, still do traditional work, and still apply it to digital? So what I did is I started creating drawings, scanning them onto the computer, and then modifying them. So with this drawing here, these characters right here were all done with pen and ink, and then I scanned it, boosted the contrast to make it look like it was done on the computer, and I added all of these little flares and stuff here through the computer using like a path tool, and that's so important. Like, it just took my art to a whole nother place, because I'm no longer have a boundary of like, oh, I only have these colors, so I won't be able to fully create the image that I want. When you put it on the computer, you have an endless amount of colors that you can use. You have an endless amount of different tools that you can use to, boost the quality of an image. So I just ran with that, and I started doing more ink drawings, sitting down and doing ink drawings. And then, like, this is a scan. I did this ink drawing. All of this was done by hand. I scanned it, and then I colorized it on the computer to make it finished. And that, I want to tell you guys, it's nothing wrong with that, especially nowadays where things are so different. Embrace the fact that you have these things and use them to your full ability. So this whole period here, from all the way up, is really me starting to embrace that idea of using different tools to create an image. Like, everything here was pretty much done on computer or modified on the computer, and you can see how, from me learning Photoshop and Illustrator, how I became interested in things like Flash animation, and and just a whole bunch of different type of stuff, and just like, opening the door for, creating sculpture work, expressing myself through there. Like, art, like I keep saying, art is an expression. Use it to your best capability, and use anything to its best capability. And that's all art is just taking something, taking a tool and creating an image, taking an idea and bringing it into reality. So that's pretty much all I want to say. When it comes to developing your own style, it all comes down to experimentation. It all comes down to appreciation. It comes down to respect, and just like, being unafraid of what people are going to think. Unify different elements and, use them to the best ability so that they work, and constantly study.